You finally sit down, the work is done, no one is asking anything from you, and yet your chest feels tight. There's a quiet voice saying, you should be doing something. Rest doesn't feel peaceful. It feels wrong. Why? You tell yourself you deserve a break, but the moment you stop, your mind speeds up. You think about unfinished tasks, future responsibilities, people who are working harder than you. Scrolling doesn't help. Watching something doesn't help. Even lying down feels like cheating. So you get up, you reorganize something. You check your phone. You open your laptop just for a minute. This isn't ambition, it's tension. And over time, this tension shapes your identity. You become the reliable one, the productive one, the one who doesn't waste time. People praise you for it, but privately, you can't relax without earning it. Even on vacation, your brain looks for a task. Even during conversations, you feel slightly behind. This pattern isn't random. In behavioral psychology, this connects to something called conditional reinforcement. You were rewarded, emotionally or socially, for doing, not for being. Maybe you were praised when you achieved something. Maybe calmness at home depended on you being responsible. Maybe love felt warmer when you were useful. Over time, your brain learned a rule: value equals productivity. And now, when you rest, it feels like your value is decreasing. But that's not the full story. There's something deeper happening in the nervous system itself. You are not broken. You are not incapable of relaxing. Your brain is doing exactly what it was trained to do. In neuroscience, the brain prioritizes survival over comfort. And survival isn't just physical, it's social. Belonging, approval, safety. If productivity once helped you feel secure, your nervous system wired rest as a potential threat. So the guilt you feel, it's not moral, it's protective. Your brain thinks it's keeping you safe. The problem is, it never updated the rule. Let's make this simple. Your brain runs on prediction. It constantly asks, what behavior keeps me safe and accepted? When you repeatedly receive positive reinforcement for effort, praise, relief, approval, your brain releases dopamine. Dopamine isn't just a pleasure chemical. It's a learning signal. It marks behaviors as important, so productivity becomes tagged as rewarded. Now, here's the key. The absence of that behavior can trigger mild threat detection. The amygdala, your brain's alarm system, doesn't scream. It whispers, you're falling behind. You're wasting time. This isn't safe. Think of your nervous system like a smoke detector. It was set to go off whenever you stopped moving. Even if there's no fire now, rest becomes associated with risk. Not because rest is dangerous, but because in the past, inactivity may have meant disapproval, instability, or lost opportunity. There's also something called the default mode network. This is the brain system active when you're not focused on a task. It's involved in self-reflection. When you finally rest, this network turns on. And if your identity is tied to achievement, the thoughts that surface sound like judgment. You're not doing enough. You're wasting potential. So rest doesn't feel neutral. It feels like exposure. This is why guilt appears specifically during stillness. But here's the important question. If your brain learned this pattern, can it unlearn it? Not with force, not with positive affirmations, but with retraining. Here are 4 principles grounded in psychology. What to do. When you notice guilt during rest, label it. Say internally, this is conditioning, not truth. Why it works. Cognitive science shows that labeling emotional states reduces amygdala activation. It moves processing into the prefrontal cortex, the reasoning part of the brain. You're interrupting the automatic loop. Real-life example, you sit down after finishing homework. The guilt rises. Instead of getting up immediately, you say, my brain is reacting to an old rule. That pause weakens the pattern over time. What to do? Put rest on your calendar like a task, not as leftover time, as planned time. Why it works. In behavioral psychology, predictability reduces threat response. When rest is intentional, your brain stops interpreting it as avoidance. It becomes structured, safe. Real-life example, instead of collapsing randomly at night and feeling guilty, you plan 30 minutes after work labeled decompression. Now, rest has a boundary. Your brain sees it as purposeful. What to do? Practice short 5-minute periods of doing nothing. No phone, no task. Just sit. Why it works. This is exposure therapy in small doses. You allow the discomfort without escaping it. The nervous system learns nothing bad happens when I pause. Repeated exposure lowers the alarm. Real-life example, before bed, you sit on your bed for 5 minutes. The urge to check something appears. You don't act on it. The discomfort peaks, then slowly drops. That drop teaches safety. What to do? Expand your definition of productivity to include recovery. Why it works. The brain is efficient. It follows identity rules. If your identity is, I am someone who is always productive, rest conflicts with that identity. But if your identity becomes, I manage my energy wisely, rest supports that identity. This aligns behavior with self-concept. Real-life example, athletes train hard, but recovery is part of the program. Without it, performance drops. You are not a machine. You are a biological system. Here's the mental model to remember. Your brain is a thermostat. It was set in an environment where productivity meant safety. So when you rest, it thinks the temperature is dropping. It tries to correct it, but you're not in that environment anymore. You can reset the thermostat, not by smashing it, but by adjusting it slowly. Every time you rest intentionally, label the guilt, and stay anyway, you send a new signal. Stillness is safe. Over time, the smoke detector quiets, not because you forced it, but because it learned. You don't feel guilty when you rest because you're lazy. You feel guilty because somewhere along the way, your brain learned that stopping meant losing something important: approval, security, worth. But rest is not absence. It's integration. It's the space where your nervous system recalibrates, where your mind organizes, where your body repairs. And maybe the real growth is not in doing more, but in teaching your system that you are allowed to exist without earning the right to breathe. Next time you sit down and the guilt whispers, don't rush to silence it. Just notice it and stay, because sometimes the most productive thing you can do is nothing.